Hey guys, do you wake up dragging yourself, even after a night that seemed like a good night's sleep? Do you feel like your energy has simply evaporated, your libido has plummeted, and gaining muscle has become a battle, even though you've been working hard at the gym? If this story sounds familiar, pay attention, because the problem may be hiding right under your nose, in that dish you thought was super healthy. Think about John. You always took care of yourself, you know? You went to the gym 3 times a week, went for a jog in the park on Saturdays. And what about your food? Only what you learn is good for you. Colorful salad, grilled chicken, lots of fruit, yogurt for breakfast, that whole wheat bread with white cheese. He even stopped drinking soda and beer during the week. A model of a healthy lifestyle, right? At least that's what he thought. But João started to notice some strange things. That energy to work out? It started to disappear. The energy he had in the morning, which used to be total, turned into a tiredness that wouldn't leave him the whole day. And the worst thing for him was to see his libido plummet. That flame that was alive, you know? Now it seemed like a small ember that was almost going out. Concerned, of course, he ran to the doctor. He did a series of tests, and the result? A punch in the stomach. Very low testosterone. A worrying level for his age and the lifestyle he led. The doctor didn't understand. João, your habits are great. You exercise? What's going on here? Then they started to dig deeper, and the surprise, the real shock, came when they looked at his diet with a magnifying glass. Those foods that João swore were the basis of his health, some of them, were sabotaging the guy's hormones, in a secret way. It almost sounds like a nutritional horror movie, right? But, look, it's more common than we think. Today, we're going to investigate João's story, which could very well be yours. We're going to discuss foods that seem harmless, and even some that have a super healthy metal, but that could be, drop by drop, undermining your testosterone, your vitality, your masculinity. Get ready, because some of the things I'm going to tell you here may shock you and make you rethink a lot of things you take for granted in your kitchen. The warning is serious. Zero testosterone could be your future if we don't open our eyes. 1. The invisible saboteurs, the healthy food scam. It's almost a shame to tell you the truth. You make an effort, do your research, buy the right foods, prepare everything with great care, thinking that you're investing in your health, your strength, your energy. And then you discover that some of these good guys in the diet can have a very dark side, especially when it comes to a hormone as vital as testosterone. Testosterone, for those who don't know or have only heard about it, isn't just about muscle and sexual desire, although that's certainly very important. It affects our mood, our ability to concentrate, the health of our bones, how fat is distributed in the body, and even our energy to face everyday life. When it drops, it's as if the conductor of our vitality has lost his wand. The music goes out of tune, everything slows down and becomes more difficult. Fatigue, difficulty focusing, losing lean mass even when training, gaining weight out of nowhere, that feeling of always dragging yourself along, these are the classic signs. The great thing is that we live in an era of a lot of information, but this information is not always of good quality or complete. There are labels like healthy, natural, fit, everywhere, and we end up falling into some traps, even with good intentions. Thinking that just because something is plant-based or low in fat means it is good for everything in our health, including hormones, is a mistake that can cost us dearly. The truth is that our body is a super complex machine, and hormone production is a delicate dance of nutrients, signals, and processes. Some foods, even natural ones, contain substances that, in certain quantities, or in those who are more sensitive, can disrupt this dance. They can, for example, imitate other hormones, block testosterone, or even reduce its production. João, our friend in the story, consumed several of these foods, believing he was feeling overwhelmed. He never dreamed that the glass of soy milk in the morning, or that generous spoonful of flaxseed in his yogurt, or even the type of oil he used to grill the chicken, could be helping to bring down his mood and his test results. And the worst part is that often these effects are subtle, happening little by little. You don't eat something today, and tomorrow you wake up with your testosterone levels in tatters. It's a slow, sneaky process that slowly saps your energy, until one day you look in the mirror and barely recognize that energetic person. That's why today's warning is so important. We need to know these hidden enemies in order to defend ourselves. 2. Shocking food. 1. Soy and soy products, the superfood myth. Let's start with one of the most controversial when it comes to testosterone. Soy and everything that comes from it. Soy milk, tofu, soy protein, edamame. Soy has become a favorite, gaining the reputation of a superfood, especially among vegetarians, vegans, and those looking for alternatives to animal protein or dairy products. It is rich in protein, fiber, vitamins. It seems perfect, right? But here is a very important detail for male hormonal health. Soy is packed with isoflavones, which are a type of phytoestrogen. Phyto means plant, and estrogen is the main female hormone. Basically, phytoestrogens are plant compounds that are similar in structure to human estrogen. In some cases, they can bind to estrogen receptors in our bodies, acting in a similar way to estrogen itself, or even blocking the action of natural estrogen. It depends on a number of factors. Now try to imagine what could happen to a man's body if he consumes a bunch of substances that imitate the female hormone. Testosterone and estrogen need to be in the right measure, in balance. If there is too much estrogenic activity, this could be a signal for the body to produce less testosterone in an attempt to maintain this balance. Think of a seesaw. If one side goes up too much, the other tends to go down. In Joan's case, he had switched from cow's milk to soy milk for breakfast and in his post-workout shake, thinking it was a healthier and lighter option. And a few times a week, he would add tofu to his meals. He wasn't going to eat too much soy, but he was consuming it constantly. Science is still struggling with the impact of soy on male testosterone. Some older studies, either with very high doses of isoflavones or in very specific situations, have shown a drop in testosterone levels in men. However, it is worth mentioning that more recent studies, which combine and analyze several studies, meta-analyses, have not found a strong link between moderate soy consumption and a drop in testosterone in men. The key word here seems to be moderation and how it is consumed. What is suggested, and many experts agree, is that men, especially those who are monitoring their testosterone levels or already have low levels, should consume soy and its derivatives with caution. Avoiding excess is the key. Highly concentrated forms of soy, such as the isolated soy protein used in some supplements or bars, may require even more caution. I don't want to demonize soy, because it does have its nutritional benefits. But for Joan, and perhaps for you, it may be one of those healthy foods that, depending on the quantity and your sensitivity, may not be helping your testosterone. Other foods such as beans and flax seeds also have phytoestrogens, but in different concentrations and types. Flaxseed, for example, is rich in lignans, which are also phytoestrogens and are processed by our intestinal flora. Some specific studies have investigated its hormonal effects, but research has not yet confirmed a drastic and universal impact on male testosterone with normal consumption in the diet. The most important thing is to have variety and balance in your diet as a whole. 3. Shocking food. Number 2. Certain vegetable oils. Frying your hormones. Now, let's talk about something that almost everyone has in their kitchen. Vegetable oils. Sunflower oil, corn oil, canola oil, soybean oil. There it is again. We often choose these oils because they are cheaper or because we have been led to believe that they are healthier than animal fats, such as butter or lard. But that may not be the case, especially when it comes to hormone production. Many of these refined vegetable oils are full of polyunsaturated fatty acids, especially omega-6. Our bodies need omega-6, which is an essential fatty acid. The problem is not omega-6 itself, but the lack of balance. The modern diet tends to have a huge excess of omega-6 and little omega-3, which is another essential fatty acid with anti-inflammatory power. This imbalance can leave the body in a state of chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is bad for testosterone production. Additionally, the process of refining these oils can be quite harsh, using high temperatures, chemicals, and deodorization. This can destroy the structure of the fats and, worse, lead to the formation of trans fats, even in small amounts not declared on the label, if it is below a certain limit. Trans fats are notorious for being inflammatory and bad for the heart, and there are signs that they can also mess with testosterone levels. Processed foods, in general, are a goldmine of these problematic fats. When Joan prepared his healthy grilled chicken, he used a generous drizzle of regular vegetable oil, the kind you find in the supermarket. He also ate a lot of processed foods that, even without him realizing it, had these oils in the recipe. Whole wheat crackers, some salad dressings, even some breads. Some animal and human studies have suggested that diets very rich in polyunsaturated fats, especially when there is an imbalance with omega-3, may be linked to lower testosterone levels. It's not that all vegetable oils are complete villains. Extra virgin olive oil, for example, which is rich in monounsaturated fats, is generally seen as good and may even help testosterone. The criticism is about highly processed, refined oils and the excessive consumption of fried or industrialized foods that use too much of them. For Joan, this was another piece of the puzzle. That harmless oil he used every day to cook, combined with the oils hidden in processed foods, could be helping to create an internal environment that is not favorable for optimal testosterone production. The solution here is not to cut out all fat, far from it. Healthy fat is essential for producing hormones, including testosterone. But choosing the quality of these fats makes all the difference. Choosing extra virgin olive oil, coconut oil in moderation, avocado, nuts, and seeds, remembering flaxseed in moderation because of the phytoestrogens, can be a much smarter change for your hormones. 4. Shocking food. Number 3. Sugary drinks and ultra-processed foods, sweet poison. This one may not be so shocking to some, because there's already a lot of talk about the problems with sugar and ultra-processed foods, but the direct and indirect impact on testosterone is something that needs to be repeated over and over again because it's huge. Think about that can of soda, the juice box full of sugar, the sweets, cakes, cookies, fast food, packaged snacks, ready-made frozen meals. The list is huge. These foods are, for the most part, calorie bombs with little nutritional value, full of simple sugar, refined flour, bad fats, often the trans fats we already mentioned, chemical additives, and sodium. When you swallow a lot of sugar, your blood glucose levels spike. To control this glucose, your pancreas releases a hormone called insulin. The problem is that frequent high insulin spikes can, over time, lead to insulin resistance, which is a step before type 2 diabetes. And studies show a strong link between insulin resistance, obesity, and low testosterone. Excess weight, especially belly fat, is a major enemy of testosterone. Do you know why? Fat tissue has an enzyme called aromatase, which converts testosterone into estrogen. The more fat, the more aromatase, the less testosterone, and the more estrogen. It's a vicious cycle. João, our character, had even cut out soda during the week, but on the weekends he would relax. An ice cream here, a dessert there, maybe a more practical and processed snack on the run. He didn't think he was a big sweet tooth, but sugar and processed foods were more present than he imagined, hidden in sauces, industrialized breads, and even in some healthy yogurts full of syrups. In addition to the impact on insulin and weight gain, ultra-processed foods are generally poor in micronutrients essential for testosterone production, such as zinc and vitamin D. And, as we have seen, they can contain trans fats that harm reproductive and hormonal function. An interesting study that some hormone health sources mention is that drinking a sugary drink can cause a temporary but very sharp drop in testosterone levels in men shortly after drinking. Now, imagine the cumulative effect of this over days, weeks, years. The message here is crystal clear. If you want to protect your testosterone, you need to view sugar and ultra-processed foods as true saboteurs. This doesn't mean you should never eat sweets or pizza again, but rather make these foods an exception, not the rule. Prioritizing real food, unwrapping less, and peeling more, as they say, is one of the secrets to keeping your hormones in check. Opting for complex carbohydrates, such as those from whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, which release sugar more slowly into the bloodstream, is a much smarter tactic. 5. Shocking food. Number 4. Alcohol, bitterer than it sounds. Alcohol. A partner in celebrations and relaxation for some, but a real villain for our testosterone, especially when consumption is excessive and becomes routine. That beer at the end of the day, wine with dinner, spirits at night, they may seem harmless, but the body doesn't think the same way. Alcohol affects the body in several ways that can lead to a drop in testosterone. First, it is toxic to the liver, a super important organ in the metabolism of sex hormones. When the liver is overloaded trying to process alcohol, its ability to regulate hormones can become completely disrupted. Furthermore, alcohol consumption can directly affect the Leydig cells in the testicles, which are responsible for producing most of the testosterone in men. Studies show that alcohol can decrease the release of luteinizing hormone, LH, which is produced in the pituitary gland in the brain, and signals the testicles to produce testosterone. Less LH, less stimulation, less testosterone. It's that simple. And it doesn't stop there. Alcohol can increase levels of cortisol, the famous stress hormone. Cortisol and testosterone live on a seesaw. When one is high, the other tends to go down. Chronic stress, whether physical, like that caused by alcohol, or emotional, is a known testosterone killer. João wasn't an alcoholic, not at all, but he enjoyed his 2 or 3 cans of beer a few nights a week to relax, and on the weekends, maybe a little more at social events. He thought that since it wasn't heavy drinking every day, it wouldn't be a problem. But excessive and prolonged can be different for everyone, and regular drinking, even if it's not to get drunk, can start to take its hormonal toll over time. Nutrient deficiencies can also occur with regular alcohol consumption, as it can interfere with the absorption of vitamins and minerals that are important for hormone production. And of course, many alcoholic beverages, such as beers and sugar-laden cocktails, are also calorie bombs that help you gain weight, which, as we've seen, is bad for testosterone. So, if you're struggling with low testosterone or want to boost your hormone levels, rethinking your alcohol consumption is key. This doesn't mean total abstinence for everyone, but true, conscious moderation is key. And moderation probably means less than most people think. For João, drastically cutting down on beer was another important step in his journey to regaining his hormones. 6. The controversial role of some herbs and spices, mint and licorice. Here we enter a slightly more delicate area, but one that deserves attention, especially because it involves things that many people consume precisely for their supposed health benefits: certain herbs and spices. Two that often come up in discussions about testosterone are mint, including peppermint, and licorice root. Let's talk about mint first. Mint tea is very popular for aiding digestion and calming the mind. Many people drink it regularly. However, some research, albeit limited, has suggested that spearmint and peppermint may have anti-androgenic effects. In other words, they may reduce levels of androgens, such as testosterone. But wait, it's important to note that most of these studies were conducted on women with polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, a condition where there is an excess of androgenic hormones. So, for them, reducing their levels would be good. Other studies were conducted on animals. The evidence in healthy men who drink a little peppermint tea every now and then is much less clear, and it's not clear that this will destroy their testosterone. However, if you are one of those people who drinks liters of mint tea every day or uses concentrated mint essential oils, and you have low testosterone, it might be something to think about and talk to your doctor or nutritionist about. For João, who drank mint tea almost every night to relax and sleep better, it was something he decided to stop for a while to see what happened, just as a precaution, considering his overall condition. Another item is licorice root. Licorice is used in some sweets, teas, and supplements, and is valued for certain medicinal properties. The main active compound in licorice is glycyrrhizin. Some research, again not super extensive in men, has suggested that consuming licorice may reduce testosterone levels. It is thought that glycyrrhizin may interfere with certain enzymes involved in testosterone production. One specific study that is sometimes cited showed a drop in testosterone levels in men after they consumed a specific amount of licorice over a period of time. But it's worth noting that the amounts and concentrations of the active ingredient can vary greatly depending on the product. A piece of licorice candy is not the same as a concentrated extract, for example. The research, overall, isn't strong enough to cause panic in anyone who eats a little piece of licorice candy every now and then. But again, if you consume licorice products regularly or in large amounts, and your testosterone is in trouble, it's a factor to look into. The message with these herbs is not to be alarmed by casual and moderate consumption, but to be vigilant. Especially if you are doing everything right and your hormone levels still aren't improving, it's worth looking at these details that may seem small, but which, when added together, can have some impact. 7. Excessive dairy and contaminated fish. Attention to detail. Continuing our investigation into the foods that may be sabotaging your testosterone, we need to talk about two groups that, for some people and under certain conditions, can cause problems: dairy products when consumed in excess, and certain fish, due to the risk of contamination. Let's start with dairy products. Milk, cheese, yogurt are sources of calcium, protein, and for many people, an important part of the diet. João, for example, ate yogurt for breakfast and white cheese for an afternoon snack, thinking they were healthy and lean choices. The issue of dairy and testosterone is a bit complex and not entirely scientifically agreed upon, with some sources suggesting that excessive consumption could contribute to lower levels. One concern is the presence of natural hormones in cow's milk. After all, it is produced by a mammal to feed its young and can contain traces of estrogen and other hormones. Additionally, in some more intensive livestock farming, hormones may be given to animals, although this is regulated differently in each country. Another point is that some observational studies have associated diets rich in dairy products, especially full-fat dairy products, with certain hormonal changes, but the results do not always match and the mechanisms are not entirely clear. There is no recommendation that all men cut out dairy products to protect testosterone. However, if consumption is very high, especially of more processed dairy products or of unreliable origin, and if testosterone levels are low, this may be an area to look at more closely and perhaps moderate. Now, about fish. Fish is generally recommended as a healthy source of protein and omega-3s, and this is true for many types of fish. The problem arises with contamination by heavy metals, such as mercury, and other environmental pollutants, such as chlorinated compounds, PCBs, dioxins. Larger predatory fish at the top of the aquatic food chain, such as dogfish, swordfish, large-scale tuna, and grouper tend to accumulate more of these contaminants over their lifetime. These compounds can act as endocrine disruptors, i.e., substances that disrupt the normal functioning of our hormonal system, including testosterone production. For João, who tried to eat fish a few times a week to be healthy, the type of fish and its origin could make a difference. Choosing smaller fish, with a shorter life cycle and from reliable sources, which generally have less contamination, is a safer tactic. Wild salmon, not farmed salmon, which can have other issues, sardines, mackerel, and trout are generally better examples. There is no need to be afraid of eating fish, as there are many benefits to eating good quality fish. But it is about being informed and making smart choices, especially if your hormonal health is a priority. Varying the types of fish, and not overdoing it with fish that may be more contaminated, is a good practice. 8. It's not just food. Other testosterone thieves. While our main focus today is on the foods that may be killing your testosterone, it would be a huge mistake not to mention that your diet, no matter how perfect it may be, isn't the only factor in this story. There are other testosterone thieves in our modern lifestyle that could be killing your hormone levels just as much, if not more, than a poorly chosen plate of food. Think about chronic stress. We live in a rush, full of pressure at work, worries about money, relationship problems, too much information. All of this generates stress. And when stress becomes chronic, your body produces too much cortisol. As we've already said, cortisol and testosterone are like a seesaw. High levels of cortisol for a long time can slow down testosterone production. João, in addition to food issues, was also a nervous wreck at work. This was another factor weighing on his account. Then there's sleep. The restorative sleep. We often neglect it, but it's absolutely crucial for hormone production. It's during deep sleep that our bodies repair themselves and regulate a bunch of processes, including the release of testosterone. Most of our daily testosterone production happens while we're sleeping. If you don't get enough sleep, or your sleep is poor, interrupted, restless, your testosterone levels can go down the drain. How many hours do you really sleep each night? And what's the quality of that sleep like? A sedentary lifestyle is another major culprit. A lack of regular physical activity, especially strength training, weight training for example, is linked to lower testosterone levels. Exercise, on the other hand, not only helps control weight, remember aromatase in fat, but can also directly stimulate testosterone production. However, it is worth noting that long-distance and very tiring aerobic exercise, extreme endurance, can, in some cases, have the opposite effect and temporarily reduce testosterone, so balance is key. Other factors may include exposure to certain chemicals in the environment, endocrine disruptors found in plastics, pesticides, personal care products, lack of specific vitamins and minerals, such as vitamin D and zinc, which are crucial for testosterone, and certain medical conditions or medications. In women, the use of hormonal contraceptives is also a factor that affects hormone levels. The message here is that looking at food alone is only seeing part of the story. If you really want to optimize your testosterone, you need to take a complete view, manage stress, prioritize quality sleep, move your body intelligently, and, of course, take care of your diet, avoiding the saboteurs we discussed. Phew, that was a lot of information, I know. And maybe you're there, like João was, feeling a little lost, perhaps even betrayed by some foods you considered friends. But the good news is that knowledge is power. Now that you have this information, you can start making smarter decisions and regain control of your hormonal health. What did João do? First, he didn't panic or cut out everything at once. He started making smart substitutions with the help of his doctor and a nutritionist. He significantly reduced his consumption of soy and soy products, looking for other sources of protein. He replaced refined vegetable oils with extra virgin olive oil and coconut oil for cooking. He almost completely eliminated added sugar and ultra-processed foods from his routine, focusing on real food. He took it easy on the alcohol. He started paying more attention to the quality of his sleep and looking for ways to deal with work stress. And the results? Little by little, with patience and persistence, João began to feel the difference. His energy returned, he felt more motivated to train. That mental confusion disappeared, and yes, his libido also started to revive. The follow-up tests confirmed that his testosterone levels were rising. So, what can you do? 1. Think about your diet. Are some of the foods we mentioned a regular feature on your plate? Is there a way to make healthier changes that will help your testosterone? 2. Read the labels. Keep an eye out for hidden ingredients, especially sugars, refined oils, and additives in processed products. 3. Prioritize real food. The more natural and less processed your diet is, the better. Fruits, vegetables, good quality proteins, lean meats, eggs, good quality fish, healthy fats, avocado, nuts, olive oil. 4. Don't forget about lifestyle. Assess your stress levels, the quality of your sleep, and your exercise routine. Small changes in these areas can make a huge difference. 5. Seek professional help. If you suspect that your testosterone is low, or if you have already been diagnosed, do not try to solve everything on your own. A doctor, endocrinologist, urologist, and a functional nutritionist can help you investigate the causes and create a plan just for you. It is very important to understand that, according to experts, no miracle foods have yet been discovered that, on their own, drastically increase or decrease testosterone. The most important thing is a balanced diet to maintain a healthy weight, because excess weight has a proven relationship with decreased testosterone. Also remember that the Federal Council of Medicine prohibits the prescription of hormone therapy solely for aesthetic reasons. If this video enlightened you, if you learned something new, or if you identified with Juwon's story, leave a like below. This will really help the channel grow and bring this information to more people. Share it with that friend who is feeling discouraged or tired. They might need to hear this. And of course, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss the next videos, because we will continue to reveal the secrets to a healthier and more vital life. Comment below. Which of these foods surprised you the most? Did you already suspect any of them? I would love to hear your opinion. We've reached the end of our conversation today, unmasking some of the foods that, even though they may seem harmless or even healthy, could be quietly sapping your testosterone. Juwon's story is a strong reminder that, when it comes to our health, not everything that glitters is gold, and that we need to be like detectives with what we put into our bodies. Recovering or optimizing your testosterone levels isn't about finding a magic pill or a secret superfood. It's about building a lifestyle that supports your hormonal system as a whole. This includes eating mindfully, nutrient-rich, and free of saboteurs. It includes moving smart. It includes getting rest that actually restores. And it includes knowing how to deal with the pressures of everyday life. Don't feel down if you realize you've made some of the mistakes we've mentioned. Most of us have made them simply because we lacked information or because we followed general advice that doesn't apply to everyone. What matters is what you do from now on with this new knowledge. Remember that your body has an incredible ability to heal and rebalance itself when you give it the right conditions. Small, consistent changes made day after day can lead to big changes in your energy, mood, strength, and overall vitality. The journey to hormonal balance is ongoing, but each step in the right direction is worth it. Keep seeking quality information, ask questions, try what works for you, always with common sense and if necessary with professional support, and above all, don't give up on your best self. Thanks for sticking with me this far. I hope this testosterone and shocking food alert has been helpful and inspires you to look at your plate in a different light. Take care and see you next time.